Okay, so what we're going to do here is a very quick way of making skin tones more natural, more realistic. One of the things that you're going to notice as soon as you start to pull in all of your images, and I see this with a lot of, especially if you're working with the Canon Rebel, you'll notice that a lot of skin tones end up having a kind of a strong magenta cast to them, and so the skin tone looks a little bit redder. And basically, there's just your camera just has a natural color cast associated with it. Um, and you can correct this. First things first, when you have your images in Lightroom, you're going to do the lens profile correction. Then you're going to adjust the white balance on your images, and then that will get rid of a lot of the color correction right off the bat. But to go a little bit like one step further, we're going to use curves, and we're going to use something called a skin color palette to really refine and make the skin tones spot on. So we're going to open up, and this is part of your assignment, is a skin color palette. Basically what this is Photoshop retouchers have kind of predetermined the RGB values for a wide variety of skin tones. And it's kind of like an exact science as far as how they make sure that skin tones are consistent when they're editing. And if you'll notice, this only has four. Does that represent everybody's skin tone? No, absolutely not. This is a very basic skin color palette. This is not an end all be all. If you look over here, this is a much more comprehensive skin color palette. You can find these online. This is a lot more reflective of skin colors than this. But for the sake of this assignment, it's got the RGB values right on there. So, again, if you are interested, do a quick Google of um, different skin color palettes, and then you will find something a lot more comprehensive. So how we're going to work with this. So let's use the move tool. The move tool is the first tool on the left hand side of your toolbar there. You click on this color palette, click and hold, click and hold, click and hold, drag it over here, and then release. Boom, you have the skin color palette in here. And do you see how it's on layer 1? All right, so what we're going to do here is we are going to use this skin color palette, and we're going to look at the midtones of this model, the midtones. So do you see how this is like a highlighted area? Highlight, highlight, this shiny part. That's a highlight, it's not the midtones. So you're going to look for a part of the skin that is kind of a base. Do you see how the neck is a lot darker than the cheeks? So this isn't a good base because it's not reflective of the face. So you're going to look for the midtones of the face. Midtones can be, right on the side of the forehead here. Most likely right below the highlight, you'll find the midtones of the cheek, which is right here. So how you're going to use this palette, so you're going to take this palette and then you're going to see which color best represents those midtones. And so we can zoom in. We can see that this is much, much too light for the midtones. It's not really reflective of that. It's more of a match here. Do you see how that more closely matches this? It's a little bit lighter than this, a little bit less saturated, but we'll fix that in a second. So what we're going to do, we're going to open up a curves layer, okay? And do you see how it defaults to the layer thumbnail mask? We're not going to click on here. We're going to click on the layer thumbnail itself. So not the right one, but the left one. So not the right, but the left. It won't work if you're on the layer mask and you're not careful. This won't work. And you're going to try and it's not going to work. Make sure that you're on this thumbnail. Okay, so next what you're going to do is you're going to take your gray eyedropper and you're going to double click on it. It won't let you double click if you're on that layer mask. So if you're not finding that you can double click, then that is why. So basically you're going to target mid-tone color. The mid-tone color is going to be this. That is going to be your mid-tone color. Do you see how we have 218, 171, 145. And we've selected that on the color palette, and it's right here, 218, 171, 145. Boom, those are the numbers. Save as new defaults, no. I guess if you end up using your curves later on, then it's going to change it. So what you'll do, I'm going to hide that skin color palette. What you'll do now that you've done that is you're going to select an area of your cheek here. And that's going to give you, it's going to remove that color cast here. But what do we see here? We see that that is way too saturated. And that's what we noticed in the skin color palette. The skin color palette was in between the first and the second one, right? So how we're going to remedy that is we're going to double click on this again. And you see it says hue saturation here. So hue is 21, saturation is 33. Let's have that. So let's do about 16. Okay, do you see the new? It's going to change that. So we're going to take the saturation level down to 16. Click OK. Click No. Select an area of our cheek again. Beautiful. Done. And so if you're finding that something is a little bit too saturated, then just take that saturation level down. But again, this was, I'm going to hide this. This was the image before. This is after. You see how those skin tones are a lot more natural? Everything here looks really balanced. It looks really good and very simple to do. So I want you guys to do the same thing for the sample image that I provided.